And hello, everyone. Welcome to this information session on how to navigate sites, which is our online study abroad approval system. My name is Lisa Johnson, and I'm the Assistant Dean for International Study. And I'm going to turn things over to Sydney, who is our Rockstar Peer Advisor, as she's going to be walking you through this presentation and information session. After the session, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here for you, and we'd like you to ask as many questions as you need so that you have enough information to make the good decisions about your study abroad experiences. Thanks very much, and enjoy the session.
Thanks. Yeah. So I'm just going to introduce myself briefly. I'm Sydney. I use she/her pronouns. I'm a senior at Smith, and I am the study abroad peer advisor, which basically means that it is my job to help you guys, figure out every step of the study abroad process, especially applying. So I am going to share my screen and pull up this PowerPoint. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep an eye on the chat while I'm screen sharing. Can you see my presentation?
Sydney, I can help with the chat.
Okay.
The chat for you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, so if you have any questions, there will be like a dedicated time at the end of this to ask questions, but in the meantime, feel free to use the chat and I will be able to take a look at it afterwards. So yeah, thank you all for coming. Welcome. This is just an overview of how to apply to study abroad. So applying 101 is what I want to call this. I want to go over a couple quick facts about, facts and details about applying before we really get into it. So there are two major components to applying to study abroad. You have to apply for Smith approval, and then you also have to apply for acceptance into your specific program. I'm going to talk about both of these things today in sort of separate sections. And another really important thing is that you don't need to do this in any particular order. You can apply for Smith approval first or program acceptance first, whichever makes more sense for you. This is sort of often decided by program deadlines, and in this case, the Smith deadlines are coming up pretty soon. So that might make your decision for you, but you can do it in whatever order feels good to you. Okay. So helpful hint, you have to apply to Smith to leave and apply to your program to arrive. This is a good way to remember it. So again, I'm going to go over both of these components today, but the first one I'll talk about is applying to Smith to leave. So component one, applying for Smith approval. And I just want to stress again that just because I'm calling this component one does not mean that it has to be the first component that you do. You can do this in any particular order. This is just what I'm going to talk about first for the sake of this presentation. So as you might be aware, the deadlines to apply for Smith approval are very fast approaching. So the deadline to apply for some Smith programs abroad, such as Florence, Paris, and Geneva, have already passed. Those deadlines were on February 1st. The biggest deadline, February 15th, is the deadline to apply for all other Smith approved programs. So every other program that is on that sheet of our programs that you may have seen. So that is not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. And then March 8th is the deadline to apply for Smith in Hamburg. To actually apply for Smith approval, you'll use our online portal sites, and you can find a link to sites on our website, or if you're having trouble finding it, just shoot us an email. And you're allowed to apply for up to 2 programs for Smith approval. You will need to submit a unique application, though, for both of the programs that you're interested in, because a lot of the material in the application is specific to a program. So you do need to know in advance which 2 programs you're going to apply for. But you also don't need to apply for 2 programs. For example, I only applied to one because I knew for sure where I wanted to go. And I knew that if I didn't get in there, studying abroad wasn't something that I really wanted to do. Okay, so applying for Smith approval. Once you open an application in Sites, this is what your homepage will look like. If you haven't opened an application yet, then it will sort of prompt you to do so on your homepage. And then once you have, it will look like this. And then again, this is just like the regular homepage on Sites. So every time you open it, this is what it will look like. So it's super easy to like go back to your application if you don't want to do it all in one sitting. Okay, so when you open your application, you'll see this menu on the left of your screen every time. And so all of those components under number 2, fill out application, that's everything that you need to do to apply for Smith approval. Most of these sections are pretty straightforward. I'm going to walk through some of them, but there is nothing to stress about here, and it will prompt you to do everything that you need to do. Okay, so the first section that you'll see will ask you if you would like to submit a petition. We get a lot of questions about this one, so I'm going to spend some time on it. Do I need to petition? There are some circumstances in which you'll need to petition to go abroad. So you'll need to do that if you don't meet the 3.0 GPA requirement, and that's fine, totally fine if you don't, but you do need to petition if that's the case. If you want to study at a non-approved program, so a program that doesn't appear on our like full list of Smith approved programs. If you want to study abroad on 2 different programs during 2 different semesters, or if you want to spend a full year abroad in the UK, Ireland, Australia, or New Zealand, with some specific program exceptions that you can find on our website. So if any of these circumstances apply to you, you should plan to get on top of that petition as soon as possible if you have not already, and schedule a meeting with the Dean or Assistant Dean of International Study. And as you know, Dean Johnson is on this call with us here. So, all right. So these couple of application components, program information, credit information, and course descriptions, I will not spend a ton of time on because they're super easy. You can draw almost all of this information straight from your program's website. And a question that we get pretty frequently, yes, you literally can just copy and paste the course descriptions from your program's website. In fact, we would prefer you to do so. And another easy one, language and regional preparation. It's just going to ask you to, tell us what courses you've taken that are relevant to your program. So you might write something like, I've taken 3 semesters of Spanish and a course on Latin American social movements, for example. All right, another big one, your statement. We get a lot of questions about this one, and I just want to say you do not need to stress about it. Really, just tell us in your words, why do you want to study abroad? Maybe some other questions you can consider. Why do you want to study abroad in this particular location? How will this supplement your Smith experience? And just, is there anything else you want us to know about you and your study abroad experience? And just a helpful hint, like, we want you to study abroad. We are not looking for reasons to tell you, no, you can't go abroad. We really just want to make sure that you've thought about this decision and that you can articulate to us really, why this is going to be important to you. All right, required documents. This is kind of the big one. So there are 2 required documents that you'll need, and you can download them both on the required documents tab. So the first one is your major advisor and departmental approval form. This one is just going to ask you what it sounds like to make sure that your major approves your plan to go abroad. So you'll need a bunch of signatures on this one, namely your major advisor and your department chair or your department study abroad coordinator. I would double check with your department who that second person should be. But if I were you, I would start to email those people as soon as possible, in case it takes them a couple days to get back to you. And the second really important required document is your plan of study. So in your plan of study, you're going to outline your entire academic time at Smith. So you're going to fill out every single course that you took before you go abroad, every single course you plan to take while you're abroad, and every single class you're going to take after you come home. You are not bound at all by anything that you write down for the future, including your study abroad courses. We really just want to make sure that you're on track to meet all your requirements and graduate with a major. And so again, you're going to want your major advisor's help with your plan of study. So I would not put that off until the last minute, just in case it takes them a couple days to get back to you. This is what the plan of study looks like. It looks a little bit intimidating at first, just because there's so much information to fill out, but it really isn't. There's also an instruction sheet that comes along with it. So you can refer to that if you have any questions. Yeah, and as you can see, it's going to ask you to indicate for every class whether it's inside or outside of your major. And then at the end, it'll ask you to tally up all of the credits you're taking outside your major to make sure you're meeting the 64 credit rule. You'll go over it with your major advisor to make sure you're on track for your major, etc. Okay, a couple of questions that I get pretty frequently. Do I need to declare a major and why? And the answer is yes. Because as you have seen, probably you will need the support of your major advisor for a lot of the components of this application. And we also need to make sure that you're on track for a major and be able to go abroad. And what if I'm a double major? Good question. We get this one a lot as well. You'll need to submit both of your required documents, so that major approval form and your plan of study for each of your majors. So if you're a double major, you're going to be submitting 4 required documents instead of 2. And in terms of your courses abroad, it's really up to you how you want to handle that. So if you want to take courses for both of your majors or just one of them, or even none of them, if that works out for you, then that's entirely up to you. All right, so going back to this, you have to apply to Smith to leave and apply to your program to arrive. So you've just gone over applying to Smith to leave, and now I'm going to transition into applying to your program to arrive. Component 2, applying to your program. And again, I really just want to stress this, just because I'm calling it component 2 does not mean that it has to come second. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because the application process for each individual program varies super widely, so I can't give you a ton of specific information about it. But I would recommend that you check your program's website early and often for up-to-date information about deadlines and other information that you should know. And I also can more or less tell you that a typical program application is a little bit more like any other typical application that you might have seen before. So you probably will need to get some sort of letter of recommendation or support. You maybe need a transcript, a personal statement, some other paperwork, maybe indicating that Smith has signed off on you to be able to go abroad. But again, the applications really vary. Okay, another question that I get a lot is, what if I don't get into my program? The answer is that probably won't happen. Smith students tend to make pretty competitive applicants at most of these programs. But if it is something you're still worried about, you can always apply for a second program as backup. So the top 3 reasons that we see students not get accepted into a particular program. One is applying after the application deadline, pretty straightforward. Another is not meeting eligibility requirements. So if they have on their website, like, you need to take these 5 courses before you can apply, and you haven't taken them, also pretty straightforward. And then the third one is a little bit more sneaky. If you apply for a program that is already full, but it still is before the application deadline, you're not going to get in. And a lot of these programs have rolling admissions deadlines. So what I would recommend is that if you see that the program deadline, the deadline to apply for a program is, I don't know, May 30th, but it's a rolling application, or sorry, rolling admissions deadline, I would try and apply as soon as possible. Do not leave that to the last minute because it might be full by April. And then once you've been approved by Smith to go abroad, there are a couple more things that you're going to need to take care of. This is all still pretty far out, and we will prompt you on all of this when the time comes. I just wanted to mention it so that it's on your radar. You probably will need to apply for a visa. There is probably some post-acceptance paperwork that you're going to have to fill out for Smith, especially with COVID. And I would also recommend that you start looking at airfare sooner rather than later. And that's all. Questions? Oh, I see there's a bunch of stuff in the chat. Okay.
Sydney, I know that you covered this a little bit, but could you talk again about the difference between applying for study abroad approval and then applying for acceptance to your programs? It seems that there's some questions about that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading through the chat.
I've got the chat covered.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, can you be a tiny bit more specific?
So there's a question about the upcoming deadline and for study abroad approval, and how does that relate to deadlines for perhaps students who are studying abroad for spring 2022 and whose program deadlines aren't until the fall?
Yeah, so the deadlines remain the same. So if you want to study abroad at any time during the, what's next year, 2021, 2022 academic year, you will need to meet this February deadline, regardless of whether or not your program deadlines are until the fall.
And then I think you mentioned this, but I'll just reiterate what Sydney said. So even if your program, the acceptance deadline to your program of choice isn't until the fall, you still want to apply as early as you can, because there's a potential to either not apply early enough and the program fills, right? Or other things. I recommend for students who are thinking about studying abroad during spring 2022, get your study abroad approval application in now for February, and then get yourself through spring semester. And then as soon as your spring semester grades are posted to your Smith academic record, then you start working on your applications for acceptance to your programs for spring 2022. And the reason for that is because if you apply, you can apply now, but it's likely that those programs are going to want updated transcripts anyways, and stuff. And so late May, early June is when I recommend you work on your programs applications.
The only thing I would add to that is maybe if you need a letter of recommendation, to start reaching out to those people sooner rather than later, because the professor might not respond right away over the summer. And they probably want significant heads up on a letter like that anyway.
Yeah. Cindy, there's a question in the chat that
are there professor recommendations for Smith approval? Only if you're applying for a Smith program abroad, right? So if you're applying for Smith in Paris, Geneva, Hamburg, or Florence, there will be letters of recommendation from professors required with your application, because in that case, sort of the two components that I've been talking about today are the same. But if you are applying just for a Smith approved program, so any other program that you see on our approved sheet, then no, you don't need a letter of recommendation for your Smith approval. Oh, you would also need one with the petition.
And Leela, about inquiring if your spring semester program is full, I would first look on that program's website. Normally that information is posted. It says something to the fact we're no longer accepting applications, or we're accepting applications to the wait list, or things like that. If it's not readily available on the website, it's definitely fine to reach out to those programs.
Thank you.
The only other thing I would add to this too is, so the other question we get a lot is when on Monday, February 15th is the deadline. The application will close at 11:59 p.m. on Eastern time on Monday, and so I highly recommend that you push that submit button before that date or that time. I would actually recommend trying to do it by Friday or Saturday, just because I don't like to push limits that much, but and stuff. But the application closes at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Sydney, do you want to take the next question in the chat?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I know the answer off the top of my head. I would imagine like over the summer is when those applications would switch over.
Yep, that's right. So right now, what's available in sites is for 2021, 2022. if you're thinking about studying abroad in 2022, 2023, we will open up those applications over the summer. With that said, we wait until the application deadline has passed before we start reviewing applications. So while you're more than welcome to start early and submit your applications early, they won't be reviewed until after the application deadline.
Stephanie, to answer your question, it shouldn't. We would recommend that you don't have a significant credit deficit before you go abroad. But if you're worried about transfer credits, that's also something we can talk about because that works a little bit differently, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah. And I would just, Sydney's mostly correct. You cannot have a credit shortage where you go abroad. It's not allowed. It's one of the eligibility requirements that you not have a credit shortage. You have to, if you're studying abroad as a junior, you must have either 64 credits if you're going in the fall or 80 credits on your record if you're going to the spring. The reason for that is because you only earn 16 credits while you're abroad, and you cannot enter your senior year with a credit shortage. So if that's actually the policy, is that students must have 96 credits on their record to enter their senior year. And so working backwards from that, you can't have a deficit before you go abroad if you can only earn 16 credits. So.
Yeah, I see a hand raised, but I can't see the name.
Gabby Lopez?
Yeah, I just had a question. So I'm applying online through sites and they ask me for like how many credits the institution requires. And I was just wondering if I like convert that to make it look like how Smith credits look, or if I put in like they want 15 credits per class, but I know that's the equivalent of like 4 credits at Smith. So I just didn't know how you guys wanted that to look.
I just, if you could just write in the 15 credits on your plan of study, that'll be fine. There's also, if you haven't seen it quite yet, there's a question about that. So what we need you to demonstrate is that you understand what a full load of credit is at where you're going. And then you also demonstrate it there by answering that question. And then you also demonstrate it in your plan of study. So no need to translate the host institution credit to Smith credit necessarily, just demonstrate you understand what a full load is considered to be.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, the one thing I would add for that is that at the bottom of the plan of study, it will ask you to add up all of the credits you're taking outside your major. If you're taking a course outside your major while you're abroad, don't add like 15 credits to that total. Like I would add it up as 4 for the math part of it, but you're more than welcome to just write 15 when it's asking you individually. To answer some things in the chat, yes, your credits from your study abroad program will count to your total. And
so you don't, sorry, just to add that, you don't take study abroad credits and Smith credits at the same time. You're either studying abroad or you're at Smith.
I don't think that sites will not let you put more than 500 words.
No,
right.
There's not a limit. Yeah, the 500 limit is, try to answer clearly and concisely the questions that are in the prompts. In other words, don't write 6 pages because whomever's reading your application are not going to read the 6-page statement. But also, if you write just a paragraph, might not be quite enough, again, to demonstrate that you're prepared for the study abroad experience. So if you go a little bit over, not going to be a deal breaker. If you go under a little bit as well, again, not deal breaker. Just answer, put some thought into your answers, and you'll be fine.
So the process to apply for any sort of summer experience abroad is pretty different than what I've gone over here. So over the summer, you do not need to apply for Smith approval to go abroad. You do not need to have your credits transfer if you don't want them to. And in fact, if you do want them to, you have to apply for it. It doesn't happen automatically. And you're not bound by the list of Smith approved programs or anything like that. So you're more than welcome to just go and get an internship abroad or go on a program abroad wherever you'd like. If you are looking for, recommendations on where to go over the summer, we recommend that you start with our list of approved programs because many of them have summer components. And we know for a fact that these are like good, reputable programs that Smith students have historically gone on and enjoyed. But you're more than welcome to look wherever you like. And I see they're asking specifically about an internship. So that would probably be something that you would just look for on your own. And you also are welcome to apply for funding for it, but that's not always guaranteed. And no, you do not need to submit any paperwork for your minor. If it's something that you feel strongly about, you're welcome to reference it in your statement.
Right. And then also, if you're hoping that some of your study abroad coursework counts towards fulfilling requirements for your minor, the only thing you need to do there is just be in direct contact with your minor advisor. Then make sure that you are both on the same page with that. But it's not something that needs to be reflected or approved for the study abroad approval in the plan of study.
And to answer Leela's question, I don't think you would need to petition for that because again, the summer is your own time, but I'll pass that one to Dean Johnson if she's anything to add.
No, that's right.
Okay.
Again, there's no rules or regulations, policies or otherwise for summer. So it's really up to the student to decide how they best use that time. If the student is seeking credit to be added to their academic record for coursework that's completed during the summer, you do that through sites and stuff because it comes to our office and we review it and stuff. But again, not required.
Yeah, like the general rule of thumb for studying abroad over the summer is that the summer is your time. If you weren't, doing this program over the summer, you would otherwise be on summer break. And Smith is not able to tell you what you can or can't do over the summer. It's a different story when you're going abroad during the semester because you would otherwise be at Smith earning Smith credits.
I would add to that too. It's quite common for students who study abroad during the spring semester, even during just fall semester, to do some sort of extended work during the summer abroad. Because you do make some connections, you meet people, faculty, or otherwise, and it could be interesting that you have, some interesting internship opportunities pop up and things like that. So it's not uncommon for students to stay over the summer as long as the country's visa requirements allow you to do so and otherwise. Also remember that you can use your Praxis funding for an international internship. So that can help you offset those costs of staying abroad and stuff like that. So be sure to be in touch with the Lazar Center if you don't have enough information about the Praxis process.
Yeah, and one last thing that I want to add on to that is that just a reminder that you can't earn Smith credit for doing an internship, even if that happens during your semester time abroad. And no, so if you add, a second major in, March or April, you do not need to submit more paperwork to your application. I would just, again, recommend that you be in contact with that major advisor through this whole process to make sure that you're on track for both of your majors.
Any last questions that Sydney and I can help you with? Thank you for all the questions that are coming up. These are great. And Sydney and I are always happy to answer questions.
Yeah, and if you have any more questions between now and the deadline or after the deadline, you can always reach us at studyabroad@smith.edu. We are always happy to answer questions that come into the inbox. So.
Okay. Nope, you go ahead and close, Sydney. That's fine. If you want to. I mean,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just, somebody said thank you for the presentation. So I said, you're welcome. But
yeah, our pleasure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you again for your time. We look forward to seeing your study abroad approval applications in the next couple of weeks. Or no, actually, well, yeah. There's next week to get things done. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah. One more thing that I'll add super quickly is that, so this presentation is recorded. We'll post it on our YouTube channel soon. But the other thing is, if you want to refer back to the slides that I used today, you can feel free to email us and I'm happy to share the PowerPoint with you. Yeah, that's all. Thanks, everyone.